Good news. I don't have hay fever for this one. And also, I've been sent another Efnote kit. This time, the Efnote Mini, and we're going to open it and put it in my room. This is my room. I'm also going to answer more of your questions because it's far more interesting if I answer your questions while opening this. Kind of a no-brainer. So let's get into it. Alona!
Hello! I actually have a mic on today, so I won't be a voice in the distance.
No, she'll be a voice
I'm gonna be
close to you.
right in your ears.
We also have significantly less boxes.
Yeah, this will be a
This
lot
time.
quicker this time.
We have 2, which I like. This is a benefit. I hope this is smaller than my other kit that was in here before.
I'm guessing it is a mini, so that tracks.
It's in the name.
It's in the name. So, question 1.
1.
How do you stay relaxed and loose during a gig without tensing up?
I think it's a constant back and forth, to be honest. Like, there's still times where I tense up. When you're doing something really fast for a really long time, or you're just getting tired during the gig, you try and keep playing the part as is, up to speed, at the right volume and all that stuff, and how you do that is good technique. But after a certain point, if it's that quick or the gig's that long, you're kind of starting to really pull upon stamina. And what I often do is, let's say I'm playing an 8th note groove really fast, that kind of fast, I'd probably just open the hi-hat a little bit and make it trashy on the quarter note to save energy, because if you know you've got another like half hour worth of songs to play, you want to leave some left in the tank. So it's kind of that, basically. Good technique at the end of the day.
How do you break into being an intermediate drummer? What are the skills necessary?
If I was to put my finger on one of the things that for me separates a brand new drummer from an intermediate drummer, it's dynamics. So something you can do very easily, I say very easily, but it's the first thing you want to think about, is, for example, you're playing a groove with snare drum on 2 and 4, you want to accent those. But then you've got, let's say, a snare drum on the of 2, so 1 and 2, You want to make that every note that isn't on 2 and 4, basically. A nice little ghost note, 1 and 2, And it just adds that little bit of dynamic contrast. Bingo word, that's my bingo word, I'm pretty sure, to your playing, and that extra bit of definition just makes things sound a whole lot better.
You don't even need the drum kit, you just play the boxes.
Exactly. Box player. Is this a baby sound module compared to the absolute unit snare stand for a 10-inch snare, so that's a baby snare, and there is the baby snare drum. There we go. This feels like a very brown version of Christmas. Empty box.
It literally has the words empty box written on it.
I think this is the floor drum. I want to sit in that box so bad.
How do I know when I am ready to jam or play with a band?
As soon as you can play, really. Because
Yeah, but I feel like being able to play like a little bit of something isn't the same as knowing how to suddenly join in. Like the stage that I'm at, whilst I know how to play a song, I wouldn't be able to confidently just play along with a band.
So the first thing that will probably help is, like, if I had to give one specific exercise, it would be bass drum placements within 8th notes. So playing 8th note hands, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then you move your bass drum from beat 1 to the and of 1 to the 2 and a 2, 3 and a 3, because then you get comfortable placing your bass drum anywhere within the bar within 8th notes. And that means when you're listening to your bass player, which is what you want to do, listen to your bass player and try and copy kind of what they're doing. If they're doing like dum 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 dum, then your bass drum will go dum 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 dum. Stuff like that. It doesn't have to, if it's a really intense bass part, don't stress it too much. And also use your ears a bit and listen to what they're doing and see if you can mimic it as well. That's kind of the first thing I do. Once you've got that, that'll cover you for like a lot of songs, really. And that'll get you jamming, and then you can start developing other band-related skills.
you want me to hand you a thing and you can unbox it whilst
Give
in the
me a
box?
thing. Where did I put the knife?
Oh, the knife is here.
What have you got? A knife! No! 8-inch ragtime. Tiny baby ragtime. Woo!
Should you bury the beater or not?
You get different sounds out of it. If you play jazz, probably not. For those who don't know, burying the beater is basically where the beater of the bass drum stays buried in the bass drum head, so it stays pressed against the bass drum as you're playing. You get more of a kind of shorter muted sound because of it, and most people get it because of their bass drum technique, because they're just putting all their weight in it and then just keeping the bass drum head against the thing. So there's nothing wrong with it, but try and make sure you can bury it and also not bury it.
I find it hard to not bury it. I'm really struggling to move
So
away
it's
from
kind of
that.
about relaxing your heel once you've played a note, because that then takes the weight off of the kick drum.
Someone has actually helpfully replied to this person's comment saying,
Oh, good.
in addition to this, should you lift all the ankle in the rest position, or the rest position is with the heel down, even if you're doing heel up technique?
When I mean heel down and you're relaxing the foot once you've played the note, most of the time your heel still isn't touching the floor or the pedal, and if it is, it's very, very lightly. It's not like you'd think about heel down, which is like the whole foot pressed against the pedal and then you're anchoring from there and that's your toes. Like, you've done the note, boff, and then you relax the foot, but it still stays just off the pedal. So your heel is down, but it's not down.
Not quite.
Not quite, no. Look at it!
Oh my gosh!
It's so cute!
It's so cute!
Oh, yes.
Oh, I love it.
It's going to be so bouncy. Right, let me get out this box.
No, the box is fun.
Elena's telling me to stay in the box. I don't want to. I want to be free.
How can I play the slurs and dots on the drums?
Slurs you can't play. Oh, so what I'm assuming they're talking about is with traditional sheet music, you've got slurs, which are kind of lines, and dots are staccato, so like really short notes. Slurs you can't really achieve without doing just drum rolls, basically like a buzz roll, like a press
Oh, so
thing.
it's like the difference between holding a note and just doing a note straight
Basically,
away. Yeah.
with drums, you can't play a sustained note. Unlike, where you've got if you were like a flute player or something, you'd hold a note over a bar or a few notes, whatever, and that would have a tie over it to tell you how long it is. You can't do that with drums, and that's why you don't see ties. You can give certain notes certain length, but it would get a bit confusing. Because can you imagine if you had it on all the cymbal, like every 8th note is that actually it lasts to like however, like it doesn't end basically.
Yeah.
So if, for example, you did put a staccato note on it, you'd more likely put for cymbals, for example, you'd more likely put a choke and not a dot. But what you could do, for example, if you're hitting a floor tom, right, because you have that, you can also then put your fingers down and stop the drum from resonating. So you're more likely you could get staccato out of your drums than tying notes. Wouldn't really do that. Let me in. Let me in. I just want to play you. Come on. I'm gonna get all the comments back. Don't cut towards yourself. Oh my god. Snare drum.
Oh my gosh, that's small too.
It's so cute.
It's so cute.
Some might say mini.
I have a feeling this entire drum kit, just in general, it's going to be very cute. It's going to be a cute drum kit.
It's going to be perfect. It's going to be amazing. Look at it. Yeah. Just as an aside, you may have noticed I'm wearing a cool t-shirt right now that says right, right, left, left. We like drumming related shirts. And it was kindly given to me by Teenage Cancer Trust, who are currently releasing a new range of prints and t-shirts to be able to support them and what they do, which is look after young people with cancer. So if that's something you would like to get involved with and support, and also gain merch that will definitely make you a better drummer, can attest, then follow the link down below in the description to find out more about it. But yes, thanks again for sending this t-shirt to me.
What advice would you give someone who is not a drummer in writing drums for their own music? I think that's a great question, actually.
If I had to give you a really general rule of thumb, it's probably easier if you use MIDI. So you've got like a grid system. If you don't know what MIDI is, it's how producers and everyone basically use, like how we write drums if we don't have drums. And you just use samples to get drum sounds. And so it means that everything's put on a grid. And what I suggest you have is 1/8 notes in a row on the hi-hat. Most likely you're going to have 2 and 4 on the snare drum. And then you're probably always going to have a bass drum on 1, beat 1 at least as well. And then once you've got that framework, you can start to put other stuff in there. So bass drums kind of wherever you like, probably not with the snare drums in most cases. And then snare drums you can kind of put wherever you like, wherever it sounds good. You can start to use your ears after that. The thing that will separate you from it sounding like a machine playing drums and just it sounding a little bit more real is dynamics again. So putting in accented snare drum, so louder snare drum, and then any other snare drum that's not on 2 and 4, you bring down the volume of that reasonably low to your taste, basically, and that will give you that dynamic contrast that we're always looking for. And the other thing you can do is put, with the hi-hats, let's say again, we're on 1/8 notes, you can put the hi-hats that are on numbers, what we call the downbeats, as accented, a bit more loud. And the notes that are on the ands, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and make those just a little bit quieter, not as much as you would your snare drums, and that will give you that kind of more natural feel play. It will just sound a lot better. So there you have it. That's how I would write drums, to be honest, if I were doing it for the first time. These stands are so tiny. It's so light. It still feels pretty solid though.
It's really good. I mean, having a kit like be able to fill such a small amount of space. The amount of people who live in like apartments and stuff like that.
I'm interested to see the bass drum and how far that comes out. I hope it's again just mini. Look at it. Look at that baby sound module.
Oh, it's just the same as the
3X, not quite. So it is slightly different from.
Oh, it is
3X. It's matte. On the front. Ooh.
I wonder why they've designed the module to be different for the different kits. Why would they not just do the same module for each one?
I mean, you want to vary things a little bit. Apart from design change, I'm not really sure. I haven't, because well, I used this at NAMM when I was recording a couple of videos there. If you've seen those shorts, then you know which ones I'm talking about. Apparently Stevie Wonder played that drum kit. And me too.
Well, there we go.
So that's my connection to Stevie Wonder.
It's only 1 degree of separation.
Yeah. On the Pro, the touchscreen is like a phone screen and it's amazing. So I will be interested to see what the navigation is like on this, but we shall find out.
How do I train Pocket? That's a question. Is there an answer? Who knows?
See, whereas I normally have, succinct answers to things, where it's like, this is the one exercise you need to learn how to play Pocket. It's not that straightforward. So Pocket essentially means feel, how a groove feels. Some drummers play behind the beat, a la John Bonham, and some people play in front of the beat. People they have different qualities and different sounds. So if you're behind the beat, everything feels more laid back, regardless of what you're playing. Really good for blues. In front of the beat, you're getting a more intense kind of pushy sound, good for things like punk rock. That's the vibe you want to give. So when you're training yourself on feel and what's the word, Pocket, you kind of just want to record yourself playing and really listen to yourself, really play with other drummers while playing, listen to other drummers, see what's different between you and them, and ask yourself why, basically. Is it that you're playing really far in front of the beat? Are you actually with the metronome or not? It's little things like that that will probably help you start to develop an ear for it, but it's not a one-size-fits-all answer, to be honest. It's just kind of like, listen and play.
Thanks, teacher.
You are so welcome.
Metal stick.
Metal stick. Yeah, these stands are much less heavy than the other ones. There was also a lot more of them, and it was a lot warmer in that room, and I was
Dying of hay fever.
dying of hay fever.
There's a gentleman who is having what I would describe a slight crisis about hi-hat position. There's like a lot of questions all listed one after the other.
Okay.
Shall we dive into that? I feel he really wants to know.
Hang on.
Question: RE hi-hat bottom cymbal adjustment screw.
Right.
Where should it be located? When setting up the stand, before adding any hi-hat cymbals, no one ever addresses the issue of where the adjustment screw should be positioned. Is it at the 9 o'clock position? At the 12 position towards the audience? Is it at the 3 o'clock position facing the SM mounted tom? Should it be at the 6 o'clock position facing the drummer? So I guess where on the stand is the question. Is it supposed to be there, there, there?
1 inch
Where's
cymbal
after
gap
adding
is
cymbals
facing
with
the
the
small
small
cymbal
cymbal
head
facing
or
every
away
direction. Inquiring minds want to know. Do you want to read it? Would it help?
I don't think it matters. So, this in here.
Oh, is that what he's talking about? So he's
I
asking,
think so.
facing there, or should it be facing towards you?
It's something I personally have never really explored all that much, so I don't think I'm the authority on it. I genuinely don't know. I'd actually like to know if anyone in the comments knows.
There's things that someone
that'd be
replied to
great.
his comment saying, I do have an answer to that, but let's see what Emma says on
Let's
the topic.
let's see what our Lord and Saviour. The answer is, I don't know. You tell me.
Dedicating about half an hour a day, which exercises would you give greater importance and frequency to? Basically, this is someone who's a student and they have very little time to practice, so they want to make sure that they're prioritising what they're doing.
It's hard to say what to prioritise because it really depends on where you are at as an individual and a player. So I actually recommend talking to a drum teacher about that, to be honest. I don't want to give a really broad answer. I think it's very much based on where you're at individually and what your goal is. Sorry about that.
What's the best way to learn to play to a click?
Play to a click. Sorry. No. So put on a click and play something very simple and keep it simple. So 8th note groove. Don't put the click on too quick. Say like 80 BPM, right? And play an 8th note groove, clicks on quarter notes, and just really focus on everything coming down with that click. If you are perfectly in time with it, the click actually kind of disappears sonically. So that's when you know you're really on it. And just basically keep spending time at slowish tempos, because what will happen is you'll develop your internal metronome, because what you're actually doing is, yes, the click is telling you where the quarter note is, but you are determining where the 8th note is. So that is you learning how to separate time. You're doing that for yourself. So that's the very most basic thing. And then you can build upon that. So say you alter the bass drum pattern and keep everything else the same, or the snare drum pattern, keep everything else the same. And record yourself as well, because you'll be able to hear more easily where you're going out of time as well. But try and stick with it and keep it simple.
Do you have days where nothing works at all, you're not in the mood, everything's going wrong? How do you deal with the frustration and self-doubt when practice isn't going well?
Yes. I think every human being on the planet has like days and variation of their own abilities. Sometimes you sit down and you shock yourself and you come out with loads of stuff and different ideas, and for me it's, you know, video ideas and different fills and grooves and whatever. And other days you sit down and go, nah, and stand back up again. Like, that's just part of the human condition. And I think accepting that that is part of the human condition is the way that you cope with it. Not every day is going to be as successful, and not every day you're going to get to the BPM you got to the day before. And that's hard to deal with when you're aiming towards a goal and it feels like you're going backwards, but you were not. It's almost impossible to go backwards, as long as you kind of keep at it. So don't sit there and frustrate yourself and put yourself off of playing by forcing yourself to play through when you're really just not feeling it. Don't bother. Don't do it. Go do something else, because then when you actually sit down on a different day, you'll feel a lot better. So that's my advice on that.
What is a good and efficient exercise for building endurance and stamina in your hands?
Again, this is all very broad, people. Very broad. You're making it hard for me to give you succinct answers, but if I was to tackle one specific thing, let's say single strokes, and I've talked about this exercise endlessly, but it kind of tells you the premise of the whole thing. When you're trying to do endurance, yeah, you could sit there and try and do just a string of notes really fast. Let's say you've got a metronome at 200 BPM and you're going for single strokes and going like that. But what I'd actually do is probably tackle it in bursts, because in most cases, you're not going to be doing for like more than 5-10 seconds tops. So what you actually want is for those 5-10 seconds to be really, really clean and sounding really good. So do bursts, so you get like 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E, for example. And you extend it out to slightly longer than that, and 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Things like that. And work up the BPMs and really try and sink into it, because the more you relax into it and just get into it, really listen to the click and see if you can kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but you kind of meld with it. Everything else disappears and you're just one with the metronome, as it were. And then you can put more structure into it if you like. You can kind of, I don't personally try and attack it this way, but depending on what you're trying to play, if you're trying to be in a metalcore, deathcore thing and you're doing your blast beats, then yes, you're probably going to want to put on a timer for a certain amount of time and try and play at a certain BPM for a certain amount of time and work that up. But what I'd say is practice that at a BPM that you can actually sustain for some amount of time, instead of trying to get jumps to massively high BPMs and expect a miracle. You got to work it up, and don't expect it to happen like that either.
When do you know it's time to upgrade cymbals, drums, your whole kit?
Like, it depends on your life situation. Like, do you need it? Let's take, for example, when I was a kid and learning how to play, I started out with a Roland TD3, which is really, really good, but it's all rubber, mostly rubber pads, and the sounds aren't quite as good as potentially higher end kits. And when you're developing as a player, you probably want something a bit beefier, which is when I was about 14, so I'd been playing 6 years probably. That's when I got my TD30, for example. So you get to a certain level and you feel the need to probably upgrade. So usually when you're losing interest, or when you sit behind the kit and it's the actual sound of the kit that's making you feel a bit pants, like that's probably when you want to upgrade things a bit. And as you kind of develop as a player, you want to experiment with different things, different cymbals, different this, different that, then you can, but that won't make you a better player. So whatever keeps you motivated, mate, honestly. Oh my God, look at it. Oh my God, my room is going to feel so much more spacious.
How do I start? I've got a snare drum and some 5/8s.
Hit it.
The more you know.
What you probably want to look into is just snare drum, hitting the drum technique. The very, very basic stuff. Just make sure, you know, you're sitting or standing with shoulders back, elbows relaxed, and most of it coming from the wrist. Conveniently, there are some drums in front of me. So you want the stick to hit the drum and bounce off. Make sure your grip is correct. So that is thumb and middle pad of the index finger, about the third to a quarter of the way up the stick. Wrap the fingers round, quite loose, and then you can have most of your power coming from the wrist. And just trying to get even, consistent right, left is a mission in and of itself. So you want not your volumes to be lopsided, and you don't want it to be nice and even. You can sit in front of the TV and do it if you put like a pad over your snare drum. You just want to get a feel for how the stick and the drum feels and bounces against said drum. That's the first thing I would do. There's obviously an infinite amount of things to do after that, but that's the first thing.
Are there tricks to listening to and learning drum parts? I always find that they get drowned out and it can be hard to hear when multiple parts are being struck together, especially if one of them is the snare.
There's a reason why I call drums the blagging instrument, because you can make a lot of that stuff up and make your best educated guess. It's usually more how it's played that conveys the part than specifically the notes, unless it's like a really famous standout drum fill, for example. One thing you can do is use what we've currently got, which is AI software, to isolate drums from whatever song you're playing. So you can use software like Moises, not Spawn, which is, I use it all the time because it's just so good at isolating drums and other instruments from a track. So that means you can actually hear what's going on a little bit better. And you can also have it put a metronome to it as well. So even if the song wasn't recorded to click, it puts a smart metronome to it. This really sounds like a plug, but it's not. Moises is just really good. Moises, hello, come talk to us. That's what I recommend. If you're really struggling, try and find something to be able to isolate the drums, or look on YouTube and see if someone's already done that for you, isolated drum tracks from specific famous songs. So that's how I approach that. In terms of learning actual songs, again, I'd break it down to what's important. I've done some videos recently doing really Cliff Notes versions talking about how would you learn songs very quickly, and it's basically intro, outro, main groove from each section. That's all you really need to worry about. For audiences, all they care about is how does the song begin, is everyone together, and how does it end? Those are the things that stick in people's minds. What happens in the middle is some sort of kind of blob that is happening and flowing and can adapt and change and potentially go a bit wrong and still be recoverable. But if you don't start and end in the same place, then it sounds a bit ugh. But as long as you're playing the main grooves vaguely right, most people won't bat an eyelid. Also look into how to write charts as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be sheet music, because that's actually sometimes harder to read because there's too much information. Make notes for yourself. So this is the main groove, that's all you need to know. Just little things to remind you of what's going on.
What's the difference between a chart and drum notation?
Sheet music is, as you can imagine, is traditional, lots of dots on the page telling you exactly what everything is, note for note, and it all looks very official and somewhat terrifying. And that gives you all the information to play everything 100% correctly. But as musicians, especially as drummers, we don't need all that information at all. What we need to know is, in the case of charts, is what's the structure of the song. So there's a verse, chorus, then another verse, another chorus, this, that, there. There's a stop here, there's this specific drum fill that is this length. Like the core foundational information about the song, how fast it is maybe, and what the important groove is, or more importantly, how does the song start? So like guitar, 4 bars, cool, and then the drums are in, things like that. That's the difference, basically. It's more concise because it doesn't need to be more information than that.
How do I count 30-second notes? There seems to be no consensus, and it matters.
Does it? Does it matter? Short answer is, I don't actually know. So I'm not counting. In fact, if you've ever seen me talking about 30-second notes in my videos, you'll know that I go, I don't know how to count these. So basically, when you're doing one E and there just happens to be 2 notes per sound. That's kind of all I really think about it as.
So you don't go 1 E and then add
what?
yeah,
no.
It's like another one that goes in
No,
there.
I find it's because it's so quick. Or I just sing the rhythm of it. Or I'd just count it as a subdivision down. So I'd count them as 16th notes. Many, many, many cables. The big box.
Big box.
Big box.
Big box.
Wee woo.
Wee woo, big box. Oh, actually, that is the smaller box of the 2 boxes, but...
Small box.
Medium box.
Medium-sized box.
Stop cutting towards you. You'll die.
I will
perish.
You regret putting the knife away now.
I am strong like bull. Strong like babushka. Cymbals. Standard cymbal. Need I say more? I also wanted to take the opportunity here to say another massive thank you to Efnote for sending me this drum kit, yet another drum kit to have and use in my videos. If you would like to know more about all of these amazing drum kits that you have been seeing on this channel for quite some time, then feel free to follow the link down in the description to find out more about them. Thank you, glamorous assistant. Anyway, on with the questions.
How do I play more creatively? I can't seem to remember fills when I'm playing spontaneously, and it's really frustrating.
I'd say practice different rhythms. So say you get yourself like a reading sheet of like 16th note rhythms, and practice those till the cows come home, kind of bar by bar, pretending each bar is a fill. And what will hopefully occur is you'll just get used to playing different random rhythms, and it will help things flow out of your hands more frequently, because it is really easy to get stuck in a rut with these things. So try that out, see what happens. Okay, I think we've got to the bass drum. Be more helpful. More helpful than that. Oh. Hey. Oh.
You get a little splash
Little
cymbal.
splash cymbal. So many boxes. And this is less than the other one.
I'm surprised that the Mini has like a proper kick drum. The 3 and the 3X have just like thinner like pads.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure why they've chosen to do that specifically. I'm not sure if it actually improves the tech at all or not, but yeah. It's a real drum. It's a real boy. Which way should it be?
Do you want to maybe read the instructions? No? Okay, never mind. Reluctantly picks up instructions.
I am my father's daughter.
What took you the longest to learn how to do?
It's hard to say. The struggle I remember having was just playing snare drums and bass drums on the E's and the R's. I was struggling to read music and getting things to coordinate, but I don't actually know how long that took. I just remember how hard it felt because I was a kid at the time, so it's the scale of time is actually quite hard to think about. And once that clicked, it kind of everything else builds around that. So yeah, that's the only thing that really stands out. Apart from that, I'm perfect in every conceivable way, as we well know, and Alona, who we pay, will attest.
Yes.
Thank you.
What's the most memorable concert you've ever attended?
Oh, probably Queen, probably. I managed to see Queen at the O2, and we were like 4 people from the front, and I could see the glitter on Adam Lambert, and it was amazing. And that was really amazing. But no, actually I think it was more recently I went to see Saxon and Judas Priest, and I was able to go with my dad and take him to a concert which he hasn't gone to for like, hate to think how many years. And yeah, it was just really, really nice, and we haven't been able to do something like that before. So it was amazing. That's probably the one.
What's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you whilst performing on stage?
When I used to do school shows, we once did Les Mis. And there's not much drumming in Les Mis, to be honest, not for a kit player. And I was playing about 5 different people's parts on percussion and what have you. And the drum stall I had was, let's just put it nicely, not the best. And so halfway through Master of the House, I'd noticed through the whole thing that the seat was a bit wobbly. And I was like, okay, cool. I stood up to adjust it, and the whole top of the drum stall fell off right before I'm supposed to play one of the only songs with any kit playing in whatsoever. So I had to power squat against the wall while I did it to finish the song while laughing my head off, because
That's one way to develop your core strength.
tell me about it. Yeah.
What was the first song you learnt on the drums?
I think it was We Will Rock You. I think. The first song I taught myself was Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple, because the primary school rock band was doing it. And I think I just figured it out by ear, to be honest, which should have been a bit of a sign that I was a bit more enthusiastic than everybody else. But yeah, so those two probably. Those are the ones that stick in my mind. Anyway, I remember tapping We Will Rock You with Mum on the sofa downstairs, and being semi-unenthused because it wasn't a drum kit when it was on my legs.
What do you love most about drumming?
drumming. It's so tangible. Like, it's such a physical instrument that gives you so much physical feedback. It's not like guitar where you're going ding, 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 and big sound comes out of amp. You hit those drums and big sound comes out of drums. Obviously this is a bad example because they're electric drums, but when you're playing acoustic drums, it's all you kind of thing. So that's, I guess, what I love about it. And also the effect it has on a room. Like when you're playing a wedding gig, for example, when you're playing a good 4 to the floor disco groove, and you can see the impact that has on how people are dancing and what you're doing and how it sits and stuff like that. So noticing the power of that and the role you're playing in the band is also really cool. Makes me feel powerful. Makes me feel more important than everyone else, clearly. Yes, because that's what we're doing it for. Okay, most of the drum kit is set up, but we will come back when I have done the wiring and I've opened a window because it's hot in here. See you in a bit. And there we have it. Fully complete drum kit. It's looking really, really nice. I'm currently wondering the best way to sort cable management, but don't worry, you can't see it, which is good because it is quite appalling at this current moment. But from very, very first impressions, this sounds really, really good. I do really like the feel of the bass drum because it is an actual drum and the head kind of reacts more like a real bass drum would. It is a bit odd having drums this small, making noises like that. Also because they're so small, they are super duper bouncy. I might try and make these a little bit less tight, but I don't know how that's going to affect the sensors. But it sounds really, really good. I like the little splash. In fact, this is going to have to make, if you get this kit yourself, you're going to have to get better aim for these drums. So it's not all bad. This is definitely screaming trying to be bop kit, which I get is more easily transportable. As per, these cymbals sound really good. And they're very easy to mute as well. This kit, I think, comes with 12 kits this time around, and I can tell they're using the same samples as all the other kit. But I need a bit more time with it to be able to really tell what's what. Cross stick sounds good. And don't judge any levels coming out of this currently because I'm yet to adjust anything. So if anything sounds particularly loud or quiet, it's not the kit, it's because I haven't fiddled with it just yet. But be aware that you probably will need to fiddle with a couple bits and bobs for it to sound extra nice. I'm excited to get some extra time on this. Now it's actually in this room, I can play a lot more of this. So yeah, I'm super duper excited. So yeah, just a massive thanks again to Efnote for sending me this kit on top of the Pro as well to try that out. The video of me reviewing that and also my first impressions on that will be out soon. There's just many other videos that will be going on in the meantime. Another thank you to Teenage Cancer Trust for sending me this t-shirt as well. Remember, all the links for the kits and this t-shirt and all this good stuff will be down in the description. I hope you have a lovely day. Big love. Mwah. Should have thought of this first line before we started.